Dr. Patrick. I see you do. Guys, there's something that happens to me, and I feel like sharing it. I think it will happen to anybody, so I feel like sharing it. Okay, so this will happen. Friday, I was coming from Trasaco. Then I wanted to use the motorway to hit the main road. I stay at Kwashiman so that I can get home fast. So I met these policemen on the road. There are 4 in numbers, and they asked me to pull over. I did. When they came, they said I should come down from the car. They want to search me and search the car. I wasn't comfortable with it, but I feel like they are doing their work, so let me come out from the car. So I did as they said, and they went straight to my car. They checked it, and in just seconds I was there, and this policeman called me that I should come. And when it was like, okay, we can see that you have your tire, and he said, you're a doctor, right? I said, oh, yeah. Yes. I said, okay. Okay, Mr. Doctor, we don't have any problem with you, but what is this weed doing in your car? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, look under your seat. What is this weed doing there? And what is this cocaine doing over there? It was like cocaine and weed in my car. And it was like, yeah, look. Yes, and I watched it, and it was there. I found the weed and the cocaine there. And I was like, what? Cocaine and weed? What is this thing doing in my car? I have no any idea about it. And besides, my car is holding me. I don't even have a neighbor, that closest friend that I can say that, okay, I pick him, we go to party or something like that, that we will smoke or we will use cocaine. No. And they still insist that, no, it's for me. I said, no, I have no any idea about it. And they was like, okay, if that's the case, you have to pay 20,000. Otherwise, we will send you to the station and we will send you to Narcotics and Drugs Board. And I was like, this is whack. What do you mean? And this policeman was like, I should force touch the substance. And I said, I'm not going to do it. They should wait. So I called my brother. My brother is at the Southern Command of the Ghana Armed Force. So I called my brother. My brother came with his boys, and my brother was like, okay, no problem. Let's proceed to the station. When we got there, we wrote a statement, and my brother was like, so what? And they said, oh, we should go to Narcotics and control something board. So we were on our way going, then we got a call from their commander. He said that we should meet somewhere. So we arranged and we met. When we met, their commander was like, what exactly happened? And my brother explained it to them. And my brother told them that, hey, you people, I know my brother very well. So if you people don't tell the truth, this case will go wherever that it will go. And their commander was like, my brother should calm down. I don't know what happened. My brother was seriously angry and was like, we should go and do fingerprint. No, he's not listening to anything. We should go straight out and go and do fingerprint. So we went to the narcotic and they conducted the fingerprint. And it was their fingers on it. Charlie, brothers and sisters, as at now, I'm still on bed. Since Friday up to now, the trauma alone, I'm still on bed.
Welcome back on the AM show, and that's how we kickstart the big stories with that viral audio that has got the attention of so many of us, but which now we're questioning, especially on the back of the latest statement by the Ghana Police Service. Joining us for a conversation for now, we have Adib Sani, a security analyst. Mr. Sani, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Benji. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And since I guess this is the first time we're interacting in 2023, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year, my brother.
Right. What do you make? Let's start the conversation from there. What do you make of this audio? Did you see it? Did you hear it on social media when it was circulating, even before the Ghana Police Service intervened and gave their verdict of happenings? And what did you make of it before you heard from the Ghana Police Service?
Well, thank you, my brother. As a body language expert, when some of these things come up, some of us, we put it under the microscope and subject it to some analytical, stuff. Mostly people send me similar things. audio messages, videos, asking me to authenticate. And a lot of these videos and audios are fake news. There's this other video of a gentleman cursing the police by a river or in a river, something like that. It's an old video. It's not new. Okay, so when most Ghanaians receive, even the most enlightened, the most educated, when they receive such audios or videos, they are quick to break the news without authenticating. As a matter of fact, when I listened to it, it was quite convincing. He spoke well. He was very composed. However, when you look deep, you would see some cracks. There were some gaps in a lot of the things he said.
Like what?
Okay, so he mentioned that he was stopped by the police at night, and he called his relative from the Southern Command, and within a very short time, they got to the scene and they went to the police. And that they were asked to go to narcotics for fingerprints at that time of the night. It's not a walk-in process. Investigations should have started before a request is made for anything to be tested. Come to even think of it, Benji, narcotics doesn't do fingerprints. It is the police that does the fingerprints. All right, narcotics, theirs is to ascertain what it is you have in your custody, whether it is truly cocaine or cannabis or whatever it is. Okay, and they don't do it at night. You get me? And he also spoke about his relative who is a soldier slapping a commander and all that. I don't think that would have happened. But he was still able to convince a lot of Ghanaians. People were very convinced that, yes, indeed, it happened. And we had others coming out to say similar things that they went through. So I must say it's unfortunate. I'm very livid about the news we had yesterday about him not even being a doctor in the first place. I think it's an unfortunate spectacle. However, I'm hoping that he'll be dealt with rigorously and vigorously to serve as a deterrent to others, because the incidents of not just misinformation, but disinformation is becoming one too many. You can innocently share information that is not true. That is misinformation. But when you deliberately share a misinformation that is meant to harm, that is disinformation. And it is safe to classify what he did as disinformation, as it would have far-reaching security implications on the country.
Thank you very much for sharing your initial thoughts with us on that. Let me also bring in Professor Kwesi Ening, who actually is with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Professor Ening, a very good morning to you, sir.
A very good morning and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. We pray
I'm not adding the prosperous because I think that's the debatable issue now.
You are not adding the prosperous because?
The debatable issue now whether we are prosperous.
I see. I don't know whether you are an individual bondholder, but please don't disclose. Don't disclose to us here. What do you make of this viral audio that made the rounds? And I asked Adib about his initial thoughts when he heard the audio piece. What were your initial reflections, even before hearing from the police, Prof?
Well, there were multiple things, and there are multiple things in this. One, I doubted the profession to which this character claimed he was a member of. I mean, the elocution, the language, the tenses. I mean, there was something off. But I did not doubt that such an incident could happen. And I'll give you specific examples of cases where I myself have been a victim and others that I know have been victims. The third, if I heard Adib correctly, is that when you deliberately fabricate fake news and put it out on social media with a view to discrediting either an individual, an organization, or particularly a state institution, and a frontline one at that, then it takes on a totally different dimension.
And not to forget, Prof, pardon the interjection, not to forget one that has been roundly criticized over so many things, which is trying to redeem its reputation. So
Precisely. This is an institution that probably over the last 2-3 Inspector Generals of Police, but particularly under Dan Parry, there's this projection of a new Ghana Police Service transforming itself and seeking to speak to the needs of the people that it's serving. So to deliberately, and I think they are just launching a new transformation plan or something of that sort. So to deliberately fabricate a story, probably based on what he might have heard or witnessed, and locate himself at the center of being a victim, but also creating an impression that two statutory security institutions nearly came to a clash. The military on one hand and the Ghana Police Service personnel on the other. So, it's unforgivable, and I think it is crucial and important that an example is made of this case to serve as a deterrent, not only in terms of fabricating falsehoods against the Ghana Police Service, but also against the individuals. So kudos to the Ghana Police Service at the speed with which they've unraveled this case. But it also leaves a certain niggling discomfort. Historically, every time individuals or groups have struck a blow against the Ghana Police Service, they have been extraordinarily quick to find a culprit and to deal with those culprits. Now, that is not the case when things happen to other persons. So, for example, I think when Mr. Dami was appointed as Attorney General and Minister of Justice, he called for the files of a number of cases, particularly murder cases, that had delayed in terms of their resolution. And I can just, for the sake of the argument, mention just two, Ahmed Swale and Professor Bene. And then, of course, the third one being the Member of Parliament. They've dragged and dragged and dragged. So for me, there's this niggling thing at the back of my mind. What types of resources were used in unraveling, in inverted commas? Is it Dr. Sid?
Yes.
AKA the Uber driver. And what types of resources are we putting out there to ensure that Honorable Dankwa, Ahmed Swale, and Professor Bennett, perpetrators are also brought to?
Those are interesting initial comments that you share with us.
Yes.
And of course,
but I have one last point, please. Because I mentioned a case in which I was personally involved.
Yes, I was actually going to get to that.
Yeah. In spite of Dr. Dan Parry's efforts, the Ghana Police Service as an institution faces such difficult structural challenges in which gangs seek to challenge Dr. Dampare's authority to bring this institution into the 21st century. So I'm going to give you specific examples and mention names. On the 26th of July last year, a young officer at what we call Shell signboard on the Spintex Road, Julius Penkra, actually accosted a motorist, intimidated the motorist, and was spectacularly stupid enough to ask for his bribe to be paid in mobile money. I have the evidence.
Wow.
2, on the 7th of July, myself and a senior officer were accosted in Elmina, in which a young officer, Bright Odame, challenged us that he had not received or collected bribes from 4 cars that were ahead of us until the officer showed him a quarter phone and suddenly started pleading. Thirdly, last year, I've been trying to look for the evidence, but I will find it. I was accosted by 4 officers at 4 a.m. in 2 vehicles, claiming I had jumped a red light, which was false. They wanted 1,500 cedis in bribe and decided to escort me and my driver to the airport police station. They then locked us off the road until, for some strange reason, one of them recognized my voice, and suddenly they started begging and ran away. This I reported to the police headquarters. I've cited these 3 specific examples to show that whilst they are first-class officers and personnel seeking to improve the image of the Ghana Police Service and to support Dr. Dampare and his team's efforts, they are seriously rotten apples within the service. Okay, a friend I know traveling between Winneba and Swedro was also pulled off the road, and 2 officers told him to open his boot. So he opened the boot from inside the car, and when he got out, they discussed a little bit, but then the officers cautioned him never to do that because some of their colleagues who are bad might put something inside the car and frame him.
Let me just interject here. We have heard stories in the past, even of media people. I remember one of our own colleagues from City back then, if you remember that incident, Umaru Sanda, and that late night incident where and there seems to be a pattern when this really happens, at least from those genuine instances we have heard, where they ask you to open your boot for a search and before you realize something is produced, and then, I mean, that is there on the negative end. In this case, it is appearing from what information the police is giving us and from your narrations, both of you, at least, the coherence of what the Uber driver, aka Dr. Patrick Esiedu, had said. But when it comes to the reality of it, what can you say in that regard? Have you heard instances of same, and was there any element of truth to it?
No, I mean, the Swedru case is that the officers who accosted this person advised him. So from the good police officer's side, they are aware that these are things that do happen. Okay? And I think this is one case in which some probably slightly sick person, and I hope probably they may subject him to some, mental test to see whether he's well. Has given false information that has tarnished the reputation of the police service. But I don't think this is something that he just made up out of the blues. I'm sure whoever his friends are, some of them may have faced these problems. And let's not forget, making a formal case against police officers who have sought to intimidate you, either to extort money from you or you've challenged them for some reason, can be dangerous. I have been cautioned consistently that be careful, be careful, be careful. Somebody may do something to you. And I'm wondering to myself, yes, but when I put a story out there, the story is still out. I may be gone, but the story is out there. So whilst this has proved to be a falsehood, the larger question or the bigger question that we need to ask is that are there networks within the service who are desperate to undermine Dr. Dampare's efforts to bring this institution into the 21st century and to respond to the operational needs of the people of this country? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. Because I have some of my students who have written some great dissertations about criminality within the service. That almost reads as if it is organized thing. Okay? So let's not allow this single falsehood. Let's deal with it. But I think it raises larger questions about performance, effectiveness, oversight, civil police relations, and complaint mechanism.
Right.
And I know that Dr. Dampare is really very concerned about leading a service that is responsive, to the needs of the people that they are serving.
Right. Just hold there for me, Prof. Let me bring in Adib Sani. You've listened to your colleague on the other end, delve into the reality, some of the terrible situations that he has witnessed and has been told about when it comes to the Ghana Police Service. But in this instance, we know that matters could actually be very different. But from your end, very quickly, do you have any such experiences? Have you heard any such stories of people having, let's specify, narcotics, planted on them and extortion going on? We've heard stories in the media. Things have been followed up on. But what is your take on that?
Well, Benji, we cannot pretend that it doesn't exist. It does exist. Right. That is why I find so-called Dr. Patrick Asiedu's audio a betrayal to all of those who have been victims of this allegation of carrying drugs on them. It makes nonsense of the efforts people have put in to get justice because they feel they've been unfairly treated. That is particularly why I'm livid about this. But that notwithstanding, almost everybody has a story to tell. But I would take it from the other side, not from the victim side, but from the police side. Interestingly, right. I was on phone with a police officer when someone sent me the audio. And guess what we were talking about? He was assigned to a certain unit, allegedly. Then they saw this man in the night. He was obviously coming from the mosque. He's grown, like someone in his 50s. And he suspects the man is an imam. Then they stopped him and accused him of carrying drugs. And that the old man wept like a baby. Wow. In the end, he had to galvanize monies from all angles, gave it to them, cursing them, and still weeping like a baby.
Wait, is this a recent happening?
I think so. Okay, I didn't specifically...
Because, I'm asking because you mentioned that you were discussing it at around the same time this audio surfaced. So I just had to find out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the officer alleged that he reported it, and guess what he was told? If you can't do the job, you stop. That's all. You know, so
I don't get this. So one of the police officers, you're saying?
the one talking to me,
Right.
one of those officers involved, because he was new there.
Okay.
But according to him, he didn't know what was happening there. Okay, only for him to get to know how they made their monies. And that at the point they threatened that, okay, at the end of the day, they will not give him what he's due. You know, so when he reported to his commander, immediate commander's boss, he told him that if he can't do the work, he should stop.
His
All right?
immediate commander or supervisor told him after hearing this that if he cannot do the work, he should stop. In other words, that commander was supporting what had happened.
Absolutely. And currently,
Wow.
according to the officer, he's on interdiction because of issues of this nature. And he's even supposed to appear in court, I think somewhere next week. Okay? So this happens. We cannot run away from it. Okay? And I think we should use this opportunity to correct a lot of the lapses. And it makes me wonder, Ben, why we still haven't fully deployed body cams. Because it
Right.
ensures accountability. It is always a case of he said, she said. But when we deploy body cams,
But Adib, a few of them have been deployed, right?
that's the thing, because this issue has come up in the past, and I understand some procurements have been made, but to what extent have we done the deployment?
Right.
Okay, so if perhaps we can do it even in phases, it ensures accountability, I must say.
Because I
If
think
we can-
just the other day, I encountered one police officer. I was going through a checkpoint late at night, and I think, if I recall correctly, he did have one.
Good, but we have a lot more officers out there. And besides, how many times have we had to close a case using evidence from a body cam in Ghana? Almost nil. Okay, so if we have to do it in phases, okay, today, let's start with highway patrols. Then the next phase, visibility. Then the next phase, this and that. So gradually, we would get every officer on duty using a body cam.
Right.
It is good for the officers because it makes them do the right thing and it makes citizens do the right thing. And I think this also gives us the opportunity to educate Ghanaians. Just as Prof spoke, I get people calling relatives, loved ones, calling me almost every day and warning, Adib, be careful, oh, something will be planted on you or you'll be put in, you will get into trouble.
So that
Because
perception
of-
is there. That perception is out there.
Absolutely, because of your statements and all that. As a result, for me, who is very security conscious, I just don't have surveillance systems in my house. I have surveillance system in my car. You know, I have a CCTV camera that works 24/7, whether the car is moving or is parked. It records ahead, it records inside the cabin of the car, and it records the back of the car. And I can't count the number of times this camera has saved me. Just like Prof mentioned, at the point, you know, I was stopped. Oh, you jumped traffic. I said, no, I didn't. It was like, you did. I said, look, that's a CCTV camera. It's captured. It was like, you people. Then he left. you get me? So even if you are stopped by the police, don't comfortably sit in your car if he requests to search your trunk and open the trunk for him. That is wrong. What you need to do is to shut down your engine, come out of the car, lock all the doors, go to the trunk, open it up for them whilst looking on.
Right.
And if you don't, you can even pick a phone and start recording.
I was just about to say that. That is what Umaru did back then, filming everything so that, look, I don't have all these cameras, but if you put anything in there, maybe there'll be some evidence.
Absolutely.
Right.
And make sure, I spoke with a lawyer and he advised that when they are searching, make sure one officer a section at a time. Don't make them at the same time because it might distract you. Lock all the doors but one at a time. So if you're done with the driver's side, shut it, go to the front passenger, open it up for them, let them do it. And if you can, you open the various compartments for them and make sure you keep an eye on whatever they do. And if they claim to have found something, don't engage in unnecessary banter with them. Okay, and don't touch it. Just politely ask that, okay, let's go to the police station. Once your fingerprint is not found on it, that is a plus for you because these things happen. So we have to be extra cautious when dealing with the police. And Professor also said something quite important. According to him, we have a lot of more officers who are doing great things. The bulk
Indeed,
of the
there
police
are.
force
So many of them are doing fantastic work.
Absolutely. But it's a human institution. And where people come together, whether it is the public sector, the banking sector, even at the marketplace, you don't expect to have everybody being straight all the time. So this is an opportunity for me to appeal to Ghanaians not to unfairly paint all of the police service with a single stroke of brush because of the actions of a few. But the police rank and file, the police council, all those stakeholders who matter should take immediate steps to get rid of these, miscreants within the service and who are hell-bent on dragging it into disrepute.
Let me come back to Prof briefly. I don't know whether that takes you by surprise, the story about the imam. And interestingly, one of the police officers, a young one, perhaps he hadn't learned yet how it goes on the streets, went to report to his commander and was told, look, if you can't do the work, step aside. Just a little bit on that, and then I want us to take a look, because you made mention of this bit. What maybe the motivation could have been for Patrick Essiedu to engage in this? You've spoken about maybe the necessity for a psychological assessment. What could the motivation be? From there, maybe we can look at misinformation, disinformation, and disseminating fake news.
So this young officer recruits straight from school, very bubbly, driven by the vision and mission of the Ghana Police Service, very broadly to protect lives and property. And in terms of the police service as a hierarchical institution, goes to the very top. The Ghana Police Service has over decades had an institutional culture in which wrongdoing has either been encouraged by the institution itself or by the political class because they get favors from the police. So if I go through a couple of the commissions of inquiry reports, and I want to mention just two or three. If you look at the Tiberi report of, I think, 1986, and Commissioner Tiberu's identification of particular forms of criminality and acquiescence within the service, its ability to falsify documents. Then you read the recommendations of the Archer Commission report. And then finally, the series of blunders that led to the Accra Stadium disaster, the Okujeto report. It gives you the impression that within the service itself, there's a structural problem dealing with internal discipline, law and order, and then the excessive political intrusion into decision-making, blah, 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 blah. So any IGP who seeks to either bring a strategic plan, and the first one done by Mr. Paul Quay, and then Asante Apietu brings in his transformational agenda, and then Mr. Al Hassan, the visibility, continued by Opombuenu. And then this shock treatment of the institution by Dr. Dampare. Charismatic, bold, daring, intellectually savvy, and says, look, we need to bring this institution into the 21st century. That triggers anger, frustration, and deliberate effort by some of his men and women to put impediments in his way.
So basically, the old guard is resisting the change because it will make the police service. I nearly said force. They are no longer a force. The police service something in which they cannot function,
or something in which, or an institution that does not create opportunities for graft, abuse of human rights, overlooking the rule of law. Let's not forget, we should never overlook this, that when institutions don't function optimally and its internal mechanisms don't work, it benefits the bad man. So sometimes institutional inefficiency is the deliberate, manipulative set of actions to ensure that those who want to use that institution for their personal ends will go scot-free. So naturally, Dr. Dampare will face opposition, but gradually, he's making inroads into turning this culture and changing minds and changing attitude. But it's going to be a generational fight, long term. Now, Dr. Siedu, a.k.a. Uber driver, why did he do this? If his mental health is okay, and there's nothing wrong with having mental health issues. If his mental health is okay, then I think he thought he was being funny. Let me put this story out there. After all, the Ghana Police Service, are used to doing this.
They already have a bad reputation.
Yes, they already have that reputation. And that is similar to what some diplomats made allusions to, and of course, Dr. Dampare dealt with that diplomat, that there are historical perceptions that sometimes drive people to behave in particular ways towards the service or to utter certain words about the service that are not justifiable.
Right.
And that is why I think in every instance where we want to be critical and taking into consideration that the large majority of personnel are honest, upright individuals, then we need to be able to pinpoint these bad nuts, give dates, give time, and also mention their names. So Mr. Pinkra from Sakumono, I'm hoping they are sending somebody there now. Then the young man at Elmina, right, Odam. But I'm always ready. Yeah.
Gentlemen, just hold for me as we commence, winding down on the conversation. We also have Superintendent Lanshin Tobu, retired, now a member of Parliament, joining the conversation. Super, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, my brother. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns. My regards to Professor Eni. It's been a while. The whole of 2023 we've gotten to this point. I've not seen him. Whatever he is, tell him I want to see his face.
Okay, I'm sure that arrangement can be made. I'm sure Prof has heard you. So you're very privy to the information we're discussing. I'd like to find out from you, so from the police standpoint, from the legal standpoint, what happens to such people who engage in whether overt or covert, intentional, unwitting misinformation, dissemination of fake news, or even disinformation? What happens in an instance like this? That is one end of the question. And on the other end, how do we rid the system? Because in this instance, it is pointing towards something that may not have happened. But there are instances like Professor Enning and Adib Sani have shared where some things have happened that paint the police with a black paint. So how do we rid the system of such elements that engage in such activities?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I prefer to start with the last one before I go to the first question. The police service is a society. It is a whole society that emanated from the larger Ghanaian society. That is why we call Ghana Police Service. It's not a police service in vacuum. It emanates from the society in general. The police service has rules and regulations, and the service instructions, I will call it the police Bible or the police Quran, guide every behavior of the police officer in uniform or not in uniform, whether you are seared or whatever. As long as you remain a professional police officer, the service instructions should remain your daily guide. The fact that we have some unprofessional people in uniform doesn't necessarily mean that anybody somewhere or anywhere can conclude that the Ghana Police Service is very unprofessional. No. An organization with over 40,000 people, and the fact that every single Ghanaian and every single citizen is a client. In fact, the police service has the largest number of clients in Ghana. So everybody, including all of us talking, mad people, sick people, everybody is a client to the police because everybody's life. So if we find unprofessional conduct amongst them, it is the duty of the citizenry to come together and help the bad elements. Because even in the local parliament, they will tell you that if you be a mensa home, in every home, there is a bad person. You can't do away with that. That is normal in society. But when you find a bad person, nip it in the bud, clear it off so that it doesn't affect the other good people. So what we are doing as a country is helping the police. And I am very sure that anytime you hear somebody mention about the fact that I met a very unprofessional police officer somewhere, the person is interested in getting the system corrected. And that is when I hear the alleged Dr. Asiedu's audio. I was excited because I felt that the next morning, Dr. Asiedu and the said military officer were being at the police headquarters, providing more information to assist the police delve into the matter and get these rots out. Unfortunately, getting to your first question, it came out that this was a prank. That it wasn't even true. So deliberately trying to paint the police black when you know that the only organization responsible for internal security and managing crime is the Ghana Police Service. You are doing a disservice to the country, a disservice to your family, and a disservice to yourself as a responsible citizen, if you are indeed responsible. So such people, when they are gotten, I think that the law should take its course. You can't cause fear and panic, and you can't dent the image of the Ghana Police Service to the point that people elsewhere will begin to look at the Ghana Police Service with a bad eye. That is not responsible citizenship. And I'm pleased that the Ghana Police Service is delving deep into the matter. I pray that the said Asiedu, who is now proven to be an Uber driver. Uber driving is a very good job. Why will you have to veer into such an area where you want to dent the image of a whole institution like the Ghana Police Service? That was quite unfortunate.
You say it was unfortunate. I just want to echo part of what this message says. Jan Ahin Samuel says, look, he quotes the Latin, Nemo Judex and Causa Sua. You cannot be a judge in your own case. And he is saying that the matter should go to court and all of that, so we know what is real, even apart from the statement by the Ghana Police Service. But of course, going to court means that you have what it takes. You have the facts of the matter to pursue that issue, legally speaking. But I'd like to find out from you, when you were in the service, did you get a stream of such accusations coming through that turned out to be true? Were there any such accusations or incidents that you experienced?
I don't know if your question is all about accusations of police investigating themselves and the fact that people don't trust the results, or you are talking about accusations of the attempt of people planting or police officers planting drugs on ordinary civilians and extorting money, if you can clear.
Yes. The incidents of people, getting accosted by the police, maybe narcotics or other things being planted somewhere, and extortion following through.
Okay. I think that you read in the news that somewhere October 20, the then Inspector General of Police, Mr. James Opombwani, issued a signal to all police organs or all police divisions and regions, saying that information that got to the headquarters at the time had that police on highway patrol and other duties were deliberately planting drugs on people, accusing them of possessing drugs and extorting money from them. And that was quite embarrassing to hear. So he issued a warning. If you are getting involved in these things and you are arrested or you are exposed, you will be dealt with in line with the rules and regulations of the Ghana Police Service. It tells you even at the office of the Inspector General of Police level, it was believed that things of this nature were happening. So, and the fact that is an unprofessional conduct. It's not just about drugs. Anything that the police officer does that is outside his or her remit within the service instruction is unprofessional, including planting drugs on people and extorting them. And that is all of us as a people should come together and please, if it happens to you, go and report it.
Right.
There are ways of ensuring that even if they try to plant it on you,
right,
and they try to paint you black, the police can investigate and extricate, in fact, get you out of that trouble and let the police officers pay with their own jobs. They can be dismissed from the police service because we don't need such characters in uniform. It is dangerous to be in uniform representing Ghana in the service and treating Ghanaians unprofessionally.
Right.
You don't deserve to be paid.
Just a quick one. Adib Sani spoke about body cameras and all of that. Should we have more in the system to forestall some of these, both the incidents of same and maybe these accusations that may pop up? Because then you would know that you can't even fabricate.
Let's not customize, in other words, let's not copy and paste stuff from other jurisdictions without, first of all, trying to work on the mentality of the police officer. You know, if you bring body cams, I'm telling you, within a week or two, they'll tell you many of the body cams are spoiled. The first body cam you can think about is the camera in the brain. That camera in your brain to say, I am a Ghanaian, I'm a police officer, I'm a professional, I want to save my country. The first camera is supposed to be in the brain of the civilian who says that I am a Ghanaian, I love my police. If I find one unprofessional police officer, I'm going to go all out to expose him and let the system deal with him. Let's create that positive camera in our brains first before we go and look for an artificial camera that will mount on our bodies, or else it will not work.
Thank you so much, Supo, for having joined the conversation. We're grateful for your time. Peter Lanshin Tobu, there, member of the Defense Committee of Parliament, joining the conversation. And he used to be executive secretary to a former IGP. Wrap-up comments from you, Professor Inning and Adib Sani, briefly on what we've been talking about. Maybe some 30 seconds if you can manage it. I'll start with you, Prof.
Educational program talking about the dangers of fake information, putting it out onto social media, but also engaging the police as service providers and us as recipients and being bold enough, you know, to identify the few bad nuts and reporting them.
Thank you, Prof, for sharing these comments with us, for sharing your time with us this morning. We're very grateful. Also joining the conversation, who has been with us, Adib Sani. Adib, any final comments?
Absolutely. I heard Honorable Lenchene talking about copying, and pasting and all that. I don't seek to opine that body cams would solve all of the problems we have with the police. It is just part of the accountability measures that has to be put in place. I mean, training regime is one. Holding officers accountable for their actions whilst performing their duty is another. The citizen participation, how many coalitions do we have, or NGOs or organizations committed to ensuring police accountability in the country? So it's a combination of a lot that also involves the use of systems to improve the way they do their work. Even their vehicles, do we have dash cams in them? Is another question that has to be answered. So I think that we can try all of these, little here, little there, hoping that overall policing would improve in the country.
Thank you so much, Adib, for having joined the conversation. I see two very interesting messages that I'll take briefly. This one breaks my heart because Nash on our live stream says, after today, No one will even talk about this issue again. None of any of the beautiful proposals will be adhered to. We'll do our bit as media and hope that the powers that be will also do their bit in stemming the tide of such. And finally, George, who is with the Forestry Commission of Ghana, says, good morning, Ben. The process of recruiting the right people into the police service has been the problem. I love this morning's show. Let's have more of these interactions with the police or security experts on your network. We are grateful that you loved the conversation, and we also hope that all of us have learned something. Before we take a breather and come through with more, yesterday we spoke about the MPP extensively. Today is the NDC and what it could look like ahead of 2024. It's the grand finale of the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize Challenge. 50 schools from the Greater Accra and Ashanti regions are ready to showcase the prototype products aimed at solving societal challenges. So, which team will emerge winner of the G-Step Challenge? The final will be held at the Accra International Conference Center. That's on Wednesday, the 25th of January, 2023. The time is 3 p.m. on the dot, and there will be exhibitions by our young ones as they seek to provide solutions to the myriad problems in our environment. So make a date with us and be part of the first ever awards ceremony to reward our future innovators and inventors. G-Step Challenge is organized by Dream Oval and supported by Foundation Botna and Joy Prime. Stay with us. We'll be back.